there's kind of two really different mindsets. You give somebody a lockbox key and you go, you can sell anything, go make some money.
There's a lot going on in the world right now, and have it from a finance perspective. And even before we started recording, we were talking about rates and all this other kind of stuff. And your view,
they don't have to manage cash. They don't have to worry about bounce checks. Like, there's a lot of benefit along the way.
Welcome to Money Mavericks, the podcast where we explore the dynamic world of finance, investment, and entrepreneurship.
I'm Kirk Drake.
And I'm Daryl Hicks. Together, we're here to bring you the latest insights, expert opinions from the trailblazers who are redefining success in the financial world. I hear a few trends in there, and it's like, well, this is a thing that I want to do, and I think that this is going to work for me. But now I have this problem over here. Well, just let me find a way to solve the problem over here. Like, I don't know many people that when they're starting a real estate brokerage, all of a sudden say, well, now we're going to open up a separate business for the marketing piece. Like, isn't the traditional path that you just kind of outsource that? Or like, how do most real estate brokerages want to solve that
Kind
problem?
of. I mean, that's halfway through that origin story. And then, it goes on to manufacturing and a whole bunch of different, tangents. But the trend really is, I guess if we use the real estate side, right? If you have a licensed realtor, which in the brokerage world, you're hanging the licenses of realtors, right? And there's kind of two really different mindsets. You give somebody a lockbox key and you go, you can sell anything, go make some money. And then there's the development world where it's like you take a contract for this building and you're in the show suite and you want to just sell the suites that are available there. It's two very different mindsets. And we found that some agents succeeded and excelled over here. Some of our team excelled over there. So we really just formed two companies, or kind of broke one out because there was an opportunity for it.
Hmm. So at what point does the manufacturing business come in? Because when you and I first met, that's what
Yeah.
that's what you were doing. And I'm like, okay, so
So
BMW.
keep going down there, in the BMW world. And then I got fully into the real estate world, but lots of doctors and lawyers and people who were clients of mine in the BMW world came with me into real estate. And then, this is kind of 7, 8 when the
How did
US
you
wasn't.
how did you make that relationship flip? Hey, I sold you a car. Do you want to invest in this new thing? Like, I feel like that's
Well, so, I mean, the interesting part is my sales style has always been very relational, right? In
it's
the
the only way
car
you can
world,
make that shift. Yeah.
yeah, and the car world was like, everybody's fighting over ups, right? And somebody walks on the lot and it's like, oh, this one's mine, go and get it. I sat in my office and, to the dismay of other people who were on the sales floor, people would walk in and they're like, hey, is Joel here? I was told I need to talk to him. So I had a much deeper relationship,
Sure.
and to me, it was so easy because, not to pick on car salespeople, but real estate, car sales, I think the bar for service is quite low. Like, if you say, I'm going to call you back, and then you do, or, if you're talking to one of your clients and they're like, hey, I need my winter tires on or whatever, hell, come get it. Let me come pick it up. Right. And then I'll drop off the service loaner and then I'll take it back. And now that I'm no longer at the dealership, maybe I'll stop by my real estate project on the way and check
So
on
quick
that. So
question. Did you ask your boss if he could do it, or you just did it?
I just did it.
Yeah, because I feel like most
Yeah.
people are like, I need to ask if I can go pick up the car, and then there's this whole liability conversation, right? And
Oh, no. I mean, they knew I was doing it and I would take one
okay.
of the loaners and they kind of encouraged it. But, I would just say, I'm going to get the Smith's car. I'm going to get the Johnson's car, whatever it was.
Right.
But, later on in life, it was part of what made me leave the auto world. And I'm very grateful for my experience there. But, I used some of those really deep relationships I had. And, I was talking to a client and he wanted a Bentley. Well, I worked at a BMW store, but, called through our network, found a car, sold it to him over here, had it shipped from Calgary to Vancouver, went and got it, met him there. So I guess I did things differently. And I
Yeah.
think that's probably a pattern in my life. So when I made that transition over, I just sent them all a note and said, hey, I'm doing this now. Thank you so much for your time over here. And then they were like, hey, we're looking to sell this or buy that. And it was very organic.
Hmm.
It wasn't, forced or kind of
Right.
by design. I think it was just, I valued those relationships, and in turn they valued, what I was doing.
Obviously, there's a lot going on in the world right now, and have it from a finance perspective. And even before we started recording, we were talking about rates and all this other kind of stuff, and your view, which was very contrarian on that. And I'm excited to kind of unpack some of that with you in a little bit. But maybe a great place to start would be, how in the world do you end up being president and CEO of University Credit Union? Give us the quick bio, but especially would love to kind of hear the origin story on how you ended up where you are.
I guess just jumping into financial services, I started as a financial advisor. I was with a company called Edward Jones, awesome company. Chose to go there straight out of college because they had the best training program. So when you looked at the number of hours that were invested by the company in you, they were like 3x any of the Wall Street firms. And so knowing that I was straight out of school and knew nothing, I needed to make sure I went to a company that could really help me achieve a quick start and understand the markets. I've always been curious about the markets. I mean, from the time I was in sixth grade. And so I guess really want to do the origin story. That's really what started. And so you remember Michael Keaton from Family Ties back in the 80s? Like that
Oh,
was,
yeah.
I didn't wear the suit and the briefcase, but more or less that was kind of me. So in sixth grade, we had this project where we had to pick a stock and we followed the stock. And so this is before the internet and before email. I know for some viewers, like, wow, that's really, he's old. But
Look it up in the newspaper.
so I looked it up in the newspaper, tracked it in the newspaper. I wrote to Xerox, requested the annual report, got the annual report back. I did a kind of a summary. I was only in sixth grade, so it wasn't like too detailed, but I still did a summary for the teachers part of the project. And we tracked it. I don't remember if it was like 6 or 8 weeks, but we tracked the stock and it went up. And I thought I knew something when I didn't know anything, but it was still fun, right? And so I know people like don't even know what Xerox is or who they are, but it was an awesome time. This is the day where like color printers were like maybe the new thing and new hottest thing. But nonetheless, it was a great project, and that fueled my curiosity for the capital markets and financial services. Got into high school, was part of Future Business Leaders of America, won some financial mathematics competitions. Got into college, played golf in college, but I was obviously a finance major, was very passionate about that. And there we started a chapter for students in free enterprise. We launched a couple of companies, got to do a business plan for a new startup that I know this is going to sound interesting, but I went to school in Alabama. I love Alabama. It's where I'm from. It's home. But we had this lawnmower races. And so they had stock modified lawnmower races. They had no business plan. They were trying to get started up and like create this whole circuit. And so they came to us as a business school to do a business plan for them and help them kind of get launched and look at what the market could look like and do an analysis around an environmental scan. And so that's kind of how things got started, right? So this is like really great experience looking back. I'm like, wow, I was really lucky and fortunate along the way to have all these things kind of happen. And so then financial advisor, of course, got to start right when the tech wreck happened, followed by 9/11. People talked about how this was going to be the greatest opportunity for your career. And then they didn't know the Great Recession and the pandemic was going to come too. But from financial advisor, was there for a few years, had a really fast growing office. The company sent people from the United Kingdom and all of the US to come train at my office to kind of learn how I was doing it. And I actually was just doing what they told me to do. I wasn't doing anything truly crazy other than making things a little bit more efficient. And so then from there, went to institutional coverage, worked with treasury companies, pension funds, insurance companies, banks, credit unions. And then I was traveling out on the road. We had our first daughter, our first child. And, one of my clients was a credit union, offered me a job as CFO and said, hey, maybe you want to be a dad and not a paycheck. And I said, that sounds pretty good. And I don't know much about accounting, but I can cover the rest of it. And so, he said, I'll teach you that. So I had on the job training for some of the pieces I was missing. And then that's launched my career. I fell in love with credit unions day one, kind of banking with a heart, if you would, and really doing the right things for people because it's the right thing to do, and trying to create value in a way that's unparalleled in the marketplace in a very unique strategy. And so from there to another credit union. And then I was fortunate enough to go work at a company called Power Financial in Miami. Worked for Alan Prindle, CEO there. Got to be CFO and COO there at the same time. So really got to experience the junior CEO role. And then University Credit Union came knocking and said, hey, we'd love to have you be our next CEO. And that was 7 years ago now. And just having a blast, have a great board of directors, have a great team. We're doing some cool things, learning, right? Some of the steps along the way, but we're definitely learning along the way and having a lot of fun doing it. And I've had great success, and I just can't speak enough about the people I get to be around and work with. And even outside the walls of the credit union, people like Kirk and yourself. I mean, the industry is really a neat place, and it's unfortunate not more people know about it.
On Money Mavericks, we don't just talk about making money. We explore the innovative strategies and bold decisions that drive real change. Whether you're an experienced investor, a budding entrepreneur, or just someone looking to make smarter financial choices, we've got something for you.
Every week, we're going to sit down with industry leaders, visionaries, and mavericks who share their journeys, challenges, and breakthroughs, from contrarian views on market trends to the secrets behind building a successful startup. You get an inside look at what it takes to thrive in today's economy.
And we promise to keep it real, engaging, and most importantly, actionable. No jargon, no fluff. Just straightforward conversations that you can apply to your own financial journey.
So get ready to challenge your thinking, expand your knowledge, and take control of your financial future. This is Money Mavericks,
where we turn financial dreams into realities and mavericks into legends. You have the examiner becoming the entrepreneur in that capacity. The other one that's just always interesting to me, which is my grandfather started Data Card.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like always fascinating to me to see these kind of derivative pieces of it and see where that kind of goes. I do think it'd probably be helpful, since, you know, our aim is to really explore some of the behind the scenes piece. Can you explain issuer versus acquirer, credit union perspective versus the merchant perspective, and the 82 mouths that get fed in between? Just take a couple minutes and kind of explain that piece of it, because I think it's a very complicated piece that most people don't get.
So first, simply, the issuer is the one who issues the card. So bank or credit union is the one who gives their customer or member a card. So they're the issuer. The acquirer is the one who accepts it. So any merchant, you know, Bob's Bike Shop, you know, Best Buy, any merchant who acquires. And then in between, to your point, Kirk, there's a ton of people who have their mouths to be fed. And so I'll just kind of run through those a little bit. So when you swipe your card, somebody runs that merchant terminal that you're swiping or dipping or tapping your card at. They take a little piece of that transaction for providing that service. There's some big players in the middle: Visa, MasterCard, Amex, depending on the brand of card. They get a piece of that transaction, generally pretty big piece of that. There's processors like us that do the processing for the financial institution. And so we take, you know, a few pennies out of that transaction too. And then the issuer of the card, the bank or credit union, they do pretty well on that side from what's called interchange. So let's just take an average $100 transaction. $100, the merchant who actually sells the goods, of that $100, they'll take home about $97.50. So somewhere along the way, they're losing $2.50, and that $2.50 pays pretty much everybody else in that stream. And it compensates them for processing the transaction, eliminating or preventing fraud in that, you know, the cost of issuing the cards. So all of that gets spread out. The issuer, they probably get the most. So they're getting ballpark out of that $2. The other 50 cents is shared by Visa, MasterCard, companies like ours, the acquirer, the ISOs that are along the way.
And the issuer in turn takes a good chunk of that $2 and gives it back to the cardholder in some way, shape, or form, right? Like, the big thing that drives the choice to use Visa, MasterCard from a consumer's perspective is that obviously it's extremely convenient. They know that it's a very risk-free transaction, because if anything goes wrong, they know they can just call their bank and they can charge it back. There's like a level of protection and being able to overturn fraudulent transactions. There's the prestige, right? Everyone loves like their black card or their gold card, the really heavy metal cards now, right? You know, all private banking, black, platinum, all that stuff. But then a really big driver of it too is points, right? We get these huge rewards that are coming back, and that's a significant amount of that $2 that the issuer is collecting. Is they're turning right back around into some sort of rewards program for the customers. And then obviously probably the biggest driver of it all is that, especially in a credit scenario, it's allowing people to spend money that they don't have today. There's all these incentives from the cardholder's perspective, and it really starts with them. Like, my analogy on this is like, if you walk into a Starbucks and there's 100 people in there, and you say to them, I've got this really fantastic widget, and everybody in there wants to buy it, and you say, I only accept check. How many people are carrying a blank check in their wallet these days? Or same scenario, you say, you know, it's $100 widget. Everybody in the Starbucks wants what you have, and you say, I only accept cash. Right now in 2024, how many people carry $100 in cash?
I will
in
tell
their
you,
wallet?
winery.
I mean, it's an incredibly great point. And I think that gets lost along the way. Is everybody talks about the merchant. In my example, you know, losing $2.50 of that transaction, but what they gain is far more significant. They get immediate access to those funds. They don't have to manage cash. They don't have to worry about bounce checks. Like, there's a lot of benefit along the way. And that whole idea that people can spend money from a credit perspective that they don't have, that is a huge benefit to the merchant too.
Yeah, if you have 1,000 people coming into your website, you want to maximize how many of those 1,000 people are going to end up buying from you. Like, I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day who does a massive amount of shipping through his Shopify site, and they just started selling on Amazon, and they discovered that their conversion went up by 400% if they were Amazon Prime certified.
Yeah.
Turns out there's only a very small handful of warehouses that are certified with Amazon Prime in order to get the goods out, and they charge a lot more. But he's like, honestly, at the end of the day, it's a no-brainer for me. I cannot leave those warehouses and 3PLs and logistics, because if I lose that Amazon Prime, he's like, my marketing and advertising costs go through the roof. I love peeling back the layers of the onion, saying, why are merchants paying 2.5%? Why, like, none of them are excited about it or happy about it? And why don't we see more like cryptocurrency and some of the other alternative methods of payment? And it's like, well, you got to understand, this is really all driven ultimately by the cardholder. They decide what it is that they want to pay with. And the merchants are like, look, I want the highest possible conversion I can possibly get. And then, like you said, there's other protections they get too, right?
Well, ubiquity is a huge thing too. I've left the house for a week-long trip without cash, anything, without cards, and just use my phone. And that ubiquity is super important to merchants too. That
I will say in some of the sketchier places in Southern Oregon, there are some cash only places still, but it still does occur. Drives me nuts. It's interesting. So we opened the retail side of the winery maybe 6 weeks ago, and I would say 95% of people are a card, which is interesting. The other thing that I think is fascinating, having started C Wallet, and everybody was worried about how Apple Pay and tap on a phone was going to displace everything. And then like the card processors are like, well, we'll just make the card tap. Right. It's like, oh, that turns out that's pretty damn convenient, right?
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Money Mavericks. We hope you found it insightful and inspiring.
Don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. And be sure to share this episode with someone who needs to hear it.
Stay connected with us on social media and visit our website for exclusive resources, episode transcripts, and more.
Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries, making smart moves, and turning your financial dreams into realities.
You've been listening to Money Mavericks, where Mavericks become legends.